Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our nightly news brought to you live from Algiers, and here are your headlines. The Zionist occupation army has committed 8 massacres in the Gaza Strip, leaving 78 martyrs, 20 of them in the central and southern Gaza Strip, and leaving 104 injured. Also coming up, the European Commission President said a maritime aid corridor could start operating between Cyprus and Gaza as early as Friday. And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged the warring parties in Sudan to agree to halt hostilities during the month of Ramadan, as Ammar bin Jama, Algeria's permanent representative to the UN, issued a call for immediate ceasefire from all Sudanese parties to bring lasting peace. Hello and welcome again to the program. The occupation's genocidal war against Gaza enters today its 155th day as the indiscriminate bombing and the targeting of civilians continues. Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza said a few hours ago that the occupation army committed 8 massacres in the Gaza Strip, leaving 78 martyrs and injuring 104 during the last 24 hours. This brings the death toll from the Zionist aggression on the Strip to amount to 30,878 martyrs and 72,402 injuries. Palestinian media reports said that more than 20 Palestinian civilians were brutally massacred this afternoon as Israeli occupation forces bombed several homes in the central and southern Gaza Strip. Palestinian news agency said occupation warplanes unleashed a series of airstrikes that targeted several areas of the Gaza Strip. The United Nations Human Rights Office said on Friday that an Israeli attack on the border city of Rafah in the Gaza Strip should not be allowed to occur because it would cause massive loss of life. It is estimated that about 1.5 million people are gathered in Rafah, located in the far south of the Strip on the border with Egypt, and most of them were displaced from their homes in the north to escape the occupation attack. The military spokesman for the Al-Qassam brigades, Abu Ubaida, said that the priority of the resistance is the full commitment to stopping the Zionist aggression against the Palestinian people and the complete withdrawal of the occupation forces from the Strip, expressing his rejection to yield to any proposals or blackmail that do not guarantee these priorities in any prisoner exchange process. Abu Ubaida also revealed that the occupation government uses deception and evasion in negotiations, explaining that the last October 7 battle established a new world order, the title of which is "Rights can only be restored by force."
أمام ما يتردد بين الحين والآخر من تقدم أو اختراق أو تراجع في ملف مفاوضات التهدئة.
In the face of what is happening now, be it a progress, violation, or retreat in the truce negotiation file, it is obvious that the enemy's government uses deception and evasion in negotiations and is dominated by hesitation and uncertainty. We have and we are still dealing positively with mediators, and our first and utmost priority to achieve an exchange of prisoners is a full commitment to completely stopping the aggression against our Palestinian people and the inherent withdrawal of the enemy, relief for our people, and the return of the displaced, as well as the reconstruction. These main and humanitarian issues are non-negotiable, and no proposals that do not guarantee these humanitarian priorities are considered by our people and our resistance.
فلا شيء مقدم لدينا على تضميد جراح شعبنا الذي يتعرض للإبادة.
United Nations human rights experts urge the international community to increase pressure to put an end to the crimes committed by the occupation forces in the Gaza Strip and save the lives of people there. The UN experts emphasize that reports received from the Gaza Strip indicate that the occupation forces have repeatedly violated international humanitarian law, leading to the death of tens of thousands of people.
We previously warned it poses a threat to the lives of citizens in the Gaza Strip, and this is what happened today, when the parcels fell on the citizens' heads.
Government media office in Gaza said that random airdrop of aid that occurred on Friday caused the death of 5 people and left several injuries, despite the prior warnings that these operations are useless and are not the best way to deliver aid into the Strip. The office called for the opening of land crossings to bring in thousands of tons of aid immediately and urgently to prevent the expansion of famine in the Gaza Strip. The government media office points out that the aid landing operations are more focused on propaganda rather than genuine humanitarian relief efforts.
We previously warned it poses a threat to the lives of citizens in the Gaza Strip, and this is what happened today, when the parcels fell on the citizens' heads.
The United Nations said that sending humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip by airdropping it or delivering it by sea cannot in any way constitute an alternative to delivering aid via land. UN humanitarian coordinator in Gaza said it was important to diversify land supply routes and that this was the best remaining solution because it is easier, faster, and cheaper.
I've also spoken about the importance of the diversification of the supply routes. Via land, this remains the optimal solution. It's easier, it's faster, it's cheaper, particularly if we know that we need to sustain humanitarian assistance to Gazans for a long period of time. And of course, I've spoken to the importance of opening additional crossings.
The Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, Philippe Lazzarini, said on Friday that there must be political will to open the land crossings for aid trucks to enter to the Gaza Strip. Lazzarini added that aid trucks must be allowed to enter through the Gaza Strip crossings, noting that airdrops do not replace ground aid. The head of the European Commission said on Friday a maritime aid corridor could start operating between Cyprus and Gaza. Ursula von der Leyen said a pilot test run of food aid collected by a charity group could be leaving Cyprus as early as Friday from the port of Larnaca in Cyprus.
The humanitarian situation in Gaza is dire, with innocent Palestinian families and children desperate for basic needs. And today we are facing a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. And we stand by the innocent civilians in Palestine. And this is why Europe is financing a major humanitarian aid effort for Palestinians in Gaza and in the region.
While U.S. President Joe Biden was speaking before Congress during his State of the Union address, Gaza was present in the Capitol building. The U.S. president devoted an important part of his speech to talking about the Gaza war as he faces internal pressures to make more efforts to stop it. Nabil Khazini.
Hands off Gaza now! Hands off Gaza now!
Ahead of the US President's State of the Union address, voices were loud outside the Capitol Hill to reject US policy towards the war against Gaza.
And alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either.
Inside the building, it wasn't any different. The US President devoted an important part of his speech talking about the Gaza war as he faces pressure to make more efforts to stop it. Joe Biden, and for over 68 minutes in the House chamber, he shouted for America and tried to find artful ways to address concerns over his administration's policy. Among those policies that received harsh criticism was his way in dealing with the genocidal war against Gaza and what he found as a solution that could perhaps divert the attention of those critiques was this one.
Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day.
But the United Nations described U.S. efforts to boost humanitarian aid in Gaza, such as plans for a temporary port and recent airdrops, as absurd and cynical methods so long as the one of the root causes of the war, the U.S. military aid to the occupation, continues. Statements concerning Gaza during Biden's speech were described as unprecedented by the US president, and they seemed for some as being closer to emotional appeal than reason, as Joe Biden now tries to gain more popularity by heading into a fierce rivalry with Donald Trump in the coming general election. Some opinions sees Biden's Union speech as an indication of a change in his position toward the war in Gaza and an impatience inside the White House towards the behavior of the occupation government.
Zionist occupation forces assaulted worshippers at the Blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque on Friday, beating and abusing them at the Lion's Gate. They prevented them from entering the mosque for prayers and arrested 2 individuals. Strict military measures were imposed at the gates of Al-Aqsa Mosque and in the Old City, where arrivals were harassed, investigated, and denied access to Al-Aqsa Mosque. Some Palestinians performed Friday prayers in the Ras Al Amoud neighborhood due to the restrictions. As women celebrate International Women's Day worldwide, the women in the Gaza Strip are grappling with the aftermath of a barbaric aggression that has claimed the lives of about 9,000 women. Many of them remain trapped under the rubble. Hussein Berkan has the story.
Women are being tragically lost in Gaza, while the world, which has always championed slogans of freedom, finds itself unable to rescue them from the clutches of the occupation. Gazans endure starvation, widowhood, and orphanhood, bidding farewell to their martyred children amid the trilogy of killing, starvation, and displacement. Gazan women, once patient beyond measure, spent years waiting for a child, and when the dream of motherhood came true, she became a bereaved mother, as occupation missiles extinguished the joy of her heart.
We were sleeping. Suddenly, around 11:30 p.m., I felt like a barrel of water hit me. My babies were next to me. I called on them. The people asked me about their names, and I told them to search for my babies. Then the people told me that my babies were dead, and their father was dead too.
Displacement adds another layer to this tragedy, narrated by those forcibly removed from their homes, enduring the bitterness of loss and fear.
Here on March 8th, there is no Women's Day. We don't recognize it because we no longer have women. They have all been wiped away. Women's Day is outside of Palestine. Women no longer have an identity here. Before October 7th, women had a good life in their homes, secure, happy, with everything. After October 7, there are no longer any women.
Occupation soldiers in the Gaza Strip subject women to the war's torture, experiencing scenes of cruelty from a military that lacks any mortal compass.
The tank started to throw sand towards me and the men. I was trying to get away while I was handcuffed, but the tank kept getting closer to us. I started crying, asking the soldier, "What will he do to us?" He said, "I want to bury you alive in this hole and let the dogs eat you."
This holiday is stained with blood of the women of Gaza. About 9,000 of them were martyred. 2,100 women went missing, and 500,000 women were displaced. United Nations reports indicate that 63 women in Gaza are killed every day. The cries of Rania, Iman, Abir, and others tell the heartbreaking reality of Gazan women on a global holiday turned into an unprecedented tragedy in the history of humanity due to the Zionist criminality, premeditated and deliberate.
Lebanese Hezbollah announced targeting a gathering of occupation soldiers in the vicinity of the Jal al-Alam site, the Al-Samaka site, and Ruwaysat al-Alam in the occupied Lebanese Kafar Shuba Hills. The attack caused direct casualties, hitting a gathering of Zionist occupation soldiers with missile weapons in the occupied Lebanese territory. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged the warring parties in Sudan to agree to halt hostilities during the month of Ramadan, a move the Security Council is also considering. Guterres told the 15 members of the Security Council during a briefing at the UN Security Council on the United Nations efforts to establish peace in Sudan that his or this cessation of hostilities must lead to a definitive silencing of guns across the country and set out a firm path towards lasting peace for the Sudanese people. Algeria, for its part, issued a strong call for an immediate ceasefire from all Sudanese parties in order to relieve the suffering caused by the war, which has been going on for more than 10 months. Ammar Ben Jama, Algeria's representative to the United Nations, urged all parties to set aside their differences and to take advantage of the month of Ramadan to bring about long-lasting peace in Sudan.
In front of this deteriorating situation, we want to seize this occasion to make an urgent call upon all the Sudanese actors to declare an immediate ceasefire, to ease the suffering of the innocent Sudanese men, women, and children. With the Secretary General, we call upon the Sudanese parties to put aside their differences and to consider the opportunity of the holy month of Ramadan, a month of peace, to embark on a path of appeasement and restraint for a durable peace in Sudan.
Ammar Ben Jama also praised the Sudanese authorities' decision to make it easier for aid to enter the country through multiple border crossings and urged for the deployment of all resources to enable the flow of humanitarian aid from abroad to Sudan. Let's take a listen.
There is also a need to explore all ways and means to grant unhindered access to enable the flow of international humanitarian assistance so that it could reach all the affected Sudanese population through close cooperation between the Sudanese government and the deployed humanitarian agencies. In this regard, we welcome the announcement of the decision of the Sudanese authorities to facilitate humanitarian access through several crossing border points, such as Chad-Tina Darfur, including the facilitation of humanitarian flights accessing airport in Al-Fasher, Kadugli, and Al-Ubaid. We encourage further engagement between OCHA and the Sudanese authorities.
The Algerian diplomat also stated that Algeria was pleased to hear about the start of a fresh round of negotiations within the framework of the Jeddah process and the creation of a high-level committee of the African Union on Sudan, which he described as an addition to the peace process. Let's take a listen.
We also welcome the announcement of a new round of talks under the Jeddah process, and therefore we invite the Sudanese parties to engage in good faith during these talks. Here, we wish to commend the facilitators and of the process, namely the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the United States, and IGAD, who represent also the African Union, for their continued effort. In conclusion, Mr. President, we call upon the Sudanese brothers and sisters to put the interest and the unity of their nation above all other consideration. We encourage them to translate the commitment they expressed in several occasions into concrete action on the ground. Peace must prevail.
UN envoy to Libya Abdullah Batili emphasized the need to preserve the improvements achieved in the country. He called for a meeting of the security working group inside Libya to be convened promptly. During a meeting with ambassadors from France, Italy, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the African Union, Batili discussed intensifying and coordinating international efforts to support the security path, contributing to peace and security in Libya. Sonatrach, Algeria's giant hydrocarbons company, and Italian Tecnimont company signed a $1.05 billion worth contract to build a petrochemical complex to reduce Algeria's reliance on imports and to meet the national demand for this component, which is crucial in the detergents industry. Marwa Belaiwar.
With an agreement that marks a milestone in domestic production of essential industrial material, Algeria's giant hydrocarbons company Sonatrach announced the signing of an important contract with the Italian firm Tecnimont for the construction of a petrochemical complex in the city of Skikda. The complex will produce an essential raw material used in the manufacturing of detergents and industrial cleaners. The strategic project intends to break from the existing import dependency on linear alkyl benzene by domestically producing 100,000 tons of lab per year, while the surplus of production will be exported.
Once the project of the petrochemical complex for the production of linear alkyl benzene enters into production in 2027, Algeria will not need to import this product. We will meet the needs of the national market and we will be able to export.
Sonatrach emphasized that the initiative will raise the value of alkyl benzene and kerosene, which are used in the production of lab and are obtained as raw materials from the Skikda refinery. Furthermore, the petrochemical complex will create jobs for Algerians and contribute to the growth of the detergent sector.
This project is part of the policy of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, aimed at valorizing hydrocarbon resources and producing what is necessary for the country in order to avoid imports.
A major step is being undertaken to bolster Algeria's natural petrochemical industry and lessen dependency on imports thanks to the partnership between Sonatrach and Tecnimont. It demonstrates the government's will to encourage regional industry growth and generate job opportunities across the nation.
Thousands of students marched in the Greek capital Athens to protest against an education bill vote that allows foreign private universities in the country. Greek students threw petrol bombs at police who responded with tear gas and have been protesting peacefully for weeks against the reform that will devalue degrees from public universities. And Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said on Friday that India's move to strengthen military deployment along the border with China is counterproductive to the two countries' effort to ease the situation at the border. It has been reported that India has mobilized 10,000 new troops along the border with China. Our broadcast has come to an end, ladies and gentlemen. If you missed any part of it, you can still watch it on our social media platforms. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.